Welcome to this eLearnSecurity video training lesson on Nessus. In this video, we will see how to install Nessus on a Kali Linux machine, and then we will see how to start and configure it in order to perform a vulnerability scan against our target machine. Kali Linux doesn't have Nessus installed by default, so we have to download it from the Tenable website. At the time of recording, the installer can be found at the following address. Note that Nessus comes with a commercial version and a free version. For our test purposes, the home version is enough. We can continue by clicking on the download button here. Since we're going to install Nessus on Kali Linux, let's select Linux as the operating system, and then download the file with the .deb extension. As we can see, this version is suitable for Kali Linux. Since this will take a while, we have already downloaded the .deb file, but do note that in order to use Nessus, we still need to complete the registration process. To do this, let's scroll down a bit in this page and click on Nessus Home Registration Page. Here, just insert your information and then click Register. Note that you'll have to use a valid email address since you will receive the activation code. We already did it. Indeed, if we open our email account, we can see the email we just received by Nessus. Here you can find the activation code as well as a few links that will help you during the installation process. Right now, we have everything we need to install Nessus. So let's open a new terminal window and move into the download folder where the .deb file is stored. Let's start the installation process by running the command dpkg-i, followed by the .deb file. It will take just a few seconds to install all the core components and the services. Once it's done, we can see in the terminal that we can start the Nessus daemon with the following command. While if we want to access the web interface, we need to navigate to the following address with our web browser. Right now, we have to run the Nessus daemon. We can start it by using the command displayed above, or the following one. Service nessusd start. Once started, let's go back into our web browser and open the page https://kali:8834. Let's click on I understand the risks, then on Add Exception, and finally on Confirm Security Exception. If everything works, we should see the welcome page of Nessus. Let's click on Continue and then let's create an account for Nessus. Note that this is the local account that you will use to access the Nessus web interface. Once we confirm the credentials, we have to paste the activation code received by email and click Continue. Now everything is set and ready to run. We just have to wait a bit until Nessus downloads all the missing plugins and components. This may take a while, so please do not close the page until the login process completes. Once it completes, a login page appears. Let's type in the credentials set before and click on Sign In. This is the main page of Nessus. From here, we have all the controls of all of our scans and results. So let's start using and configuring Nessus. Since our goal is to run a scan against a Windows machine, we have to create a new policy. A policy consists of configuration options related to performing a vulnerability scan. This includes parameters for scan timeouts, number of hosts, ports, but also services to scan, credentials and plugins to use, and much more. Everything will be clear once you start creating new policies for different targets and different purposes. So let's now click on Policies and then on New Policy. As we can see here, Nessus already offers some policy templates. Each one is somehow different from the others, and depending on the type of scan we want to run, we can select one or the other. For example, if we want to run a scan against a web application, we may want to select the Web Application Tests policy. While if we want to run a scan against a computer network, we will probably select Basic Network Scan. For now, let's create a new policy from scratch. So let's select Advanced Scan. Here let's give a name to this policy, such as Windows Scan. Now, let's move on to the Discovery section. Here we can set what types of tests Nessus will run in order to discover hosts on the network. So let's keep the Ping Remote Host option enabled, but let's disable the Test the Local Nessus Host option. In case we specify a range of IP addresses, this option avoids scanning ourselves. If we scroll down, we can see that there are a few more configuration options for the ping scan. We can leave the default configuration. Let's move on and select Port Scanning. Here again, we can see the options and the techniques that Nessus can use to perform a port scan. Here, let's select TCP in order to perform a more accurate scan. For now, these settings are enough. Let's move on and click on Plugins in the top bar. In this new panel, we can select which plugin to enable. In other words, we can choose specific security checks by plugin family or individual checks. As you can see, it seems that all the plugins are now enabled. Since we want to scan a single Windows machine against known vulnerabilities, we do not need to enable all the plugins. So let's click Disable All in the top menu and then select each plugin family individually. All the plugins are now disabled. Let's scroll down and select the plugin family Windows: Microsoft Bulletins, and Windows. Once we click on it, the right panel will list all the plugins of the selected family. Here we can see all the vulnerability checks that Nessus will run against the target machine. As we can see, it's a very long list of vulnerabilities. For this simple scan, we are good to go. So let's click on Save and continue with the scan configuration. Our new policy is now set, and we can use it every time we want. Indeed, if we click on Policy once again, we can see the list of policies we created. Let's move on and click on Scan. Here we can set the options for our scan. Of course, right now it's empty, so let's click on New Scan, and then select the policy we just created. Let's now give a name to the scan. Let's say Windows Scan. We can leave the default options for the other fields except for the Targets field. Here we need to type a list of IP addresses to use as the target of our scan. Since we're going to scan a single machine, we can type the single IP address, which is 192.168.102.138. Note that from the left panel, we can also set to schedule the scan at a specific time, as well as set an email address where the results will be sent once it's done. For now, let's skip these configurations and save the scan. Here we are, the scan already started. Right now, Nessus is trying to discover if the host is up, which ports are open, but above all, it's running the policy-selected plugins in order to verify if the machine is vulnerable. Once done, we will see a gray tick on the right. So let's open the scan and inspect the results by clicking on it. Here, we have an overview of the findings. In the bottom right corner, we can see the meaning of each color for each of the vulnerabilities found, which goes from info to critical. In this case, we have 3 critical vulnerabilities, 1 high, 1 medium, and 18 info. So let's click once again to inspect the details of each finding. Here we are. We can see each vulnerability found with its description. For example, let's click on the third vulnerability found. Here, Nessus displays the details such as the name of the vulnerability, the Microsoft Bulletin, a description, the remediation for the vulnerability, and some other info on the right panel. So let's say we have inspected the vulnerabilities found, and we would like to print a report of the findings. To do this, we can simply click on the Export button in the top right corner and select one of the following formats. Let's select HTML from the list. In the new pop-up window, we can select the type of report. For example, if we want an executive summary report or a more detailed one. Let's see how the default report looks. Here we are. After a brief description of the scan, we can see a list of hosts with their respective vulnerabilities. In this type of report, we just see an overview of the findings. But if we export a custom report, we will be able to see the details for each of the vulnerabilities found. So let's go back and export a custom report. As we can see here, we have all the vulnerabilities found. But if we want more details, we can click on them and the report will display more technical information. And this concludes the video lesson on Nessus. We suggest you configure Nessus with different policies and plugins, and run multiple scans against different machines. Thanks very much for joining us.